The Mint Instaflex TL70 Plus is the world's only twin lens camera which captures images on square Instax-Film. I have to say that I really wanted to love this camera. It's a lot of fun to use, classic look, and super cool, but it does have one major flaw. Its exposure is inconsistent, and that makes the experience of capturing images really frustrating. Let's start by taking a look at the camera. Mint calls the Instaflex TL70 Plus a twin lens instant camera because you look through the top, which looks through this top lens here, and the other lens captures the photo. Now, it's modeled after other cameras like this Mamyia C330, which is a Twin Lens Reflex camera, or TLR. So when you open up the top of this camera and first look down at the screen, you'll see a little digital readout, and it'll show you the number of frames you have left on your film. The camera is manual focus, and you focus by rotating this dial on the side of the camera. The distances are written in meters, and it focuses from infinity down to 0.7 of a meter. There is an optional close focus filter, which I'll talk more about later. Now you can press on this part of the camera and a little lens will pop up, and this is great for you to look closer and give you a more critical look at your focusing. On the dial beside the focus dial is where you set your shutter speed, and shutter speeds can be set from 1 second to 1/500th of a second. To be honest, 1/500th of a second is a bit slow. I'll explain more about that later. For longer exposures, you can use a bulb setting. So as long as you hold the shutter release down, the shutter will be open, and a time setting where you press the button once to start it and then press the button again for it to stop the exposure. And there's a cool little digital readout to show you how much time you're exposing your picture for. To set the aperture, you adjust the clicking wheel that is underneath the lens. The widest aperture is f5.6, which Mint says is f2.7 in 35mm equivalent terms. From 5.6, there is a half step to f6.7, and then another half step to f8, and then full steps to f11, f16, and f22. So to capture a photo, set the aperture on the front of the camera at the bottom of the lens, and then you select a shutter speed. You can look through the top to see your picture, and there is a little digital readout that will show you your shutter speed and your aperture. When you slightly depress the shutter release button, the display changes to show an hourglass shape with a plus symbol at the top and a minus symbol at the bottom. Below the display, you'll also see a green light or a red light. The green light means that the camera thinks that you have the aperture and shutter speed combination that's going to create a correctly exposed image. A red light means that it is not correct. Look closer at the hourglass shape for a really cool feature of this camera. If the line appears at the top part of the hourglass, the photo will be overexposed. The higher up the line, the more overexposed the image will be. If the line is on the bottom part of the hourglass, the image will be underexposed. The further down from the center, the more underexposed the image will be. Alternatively, you can select the A mode on the side of the camera on the shutter speed dial, where the camera selects the shutter speed for you and you select the aperture. There's also an A+1 mode, which will set the camera to overexpose by 1 stop, and an A-1, where it will underexpose by 1 stop. This will come in handy later, and I'll explain. There is a flash on the camera which pops up when you press this button, but to be honest, I don't really use it. To capture a photo, press the button at the bottom part of the camera. You can even insert an older plunger style release to take a photo. After you've captured a photo, you press the button on the side of the camera, and the print will come out of the top of the camera. There's also a little readout which shows how many photos you have left on your film. In terms of feel of the camera, it's mostly made of plastic, so it's light, but I'm not sure how well it will stand the test of time. Now, when it comes to film, Instaflex TL70 Plus uses Instax square film, which isn't as widely used as the smaller Instax mini film, but there are a variety of designs. There's this white border one, this black border, there's some other ones like this star illumination, and even designs like sunset and rainbow. All of the Instax film is 800 speed, which is good for low light, but it limits our options on bright sunny days. This leads me to one of the issues I have with the camera. Because I can only use 800 speed film, it means that on a sunny day, I have one setting to capture photos, 1/500th of a second at f/22. There are no other options. It would be great if I could capture images at a faster shutter speed, if the camera could shoot at 1,000th of a second or a 2,000th of a second, or if Instax made film that was 100 speed instead of just 800 speed film. Now, to deal with the problem, Mint offers a set of ND or neutral density filters. So you can see that there are 4 filters. However, you have to purchase these separately. They aren't cheap. They'll set you back about $150. So the 4 filters are the ND2, ND4, ND8, and ND16, which will block out 1 stop of light, 2, 3, and 4 stops. So this means in sunny conditions, I can capture photos at my widest aperture of f5.6 with the darkest filter, the ND16. So I do find these really useful. The camera actually has a pretty cool way to show you which ND filter you will need to use when you're using the auto or the A setting. If the image is going to be overexposed, a circle with a number will appear in the digital readout inside here. And if the number is a 2, then that means I need to use the ND2 filter. If it's a 4, then the ND4 filter. So I just put that filter on the camera. Now to do that, you put the filter in place sort of at an angle, like that, and then just slide it into place. The top part of the filter is clear, so you can still see really clearly when you're composing your image. Along with your purchase of the ND filters, you get a close-up filter, which allows you to focus when objects are about 20 centimeters away instead of 70 centimeters away. So you can get a lot of background blur when you're focusing that close. The biggest problem that you'll have with the close-up filter is your framing of your subject. So when you have this filter on here, you're going to be looking through the top lens, but the bottom lens is the one taking the picture. And because you're so close, you're going to have to adjust your framing. There's a bit of guesswork there, but you're going to have to move the camera up a few centimeters and hope you get it right. So let's talk about my biggest frustration with the Instaflex TL70 Plus. It can have inconsistent exposures. Specifically, the camera will overexpose images. Some of my first images from the camera were overexposed, and I thought maybe the meter was reading some bright parts of the scene, so I tried various lighting conditions. I captured images in even light and still had problems. I thought it might be the film, so I bought more film from different places, and I still had inconsistent results. I tested every situation I could think of that might be causing the problem. I used a gray card to try to get the correct exposure. I even used my handheld light meter and compared the results of what the TL70 Plus was giving me. Sure enough, when I used the reflective light meter, the exposure it gave me was different than the TL70 Plus. The TL70 Plus gave me results that would overexpose the image. The meter for the camera is just below the second lens. I tested to see if stray light was hitting the meter, but that wasn't the problem. The worst part about this is that not every image was always overexposed all the time. Things were inconsistent, and that made it really frustrating. I actually would prefer if every shot was overexposed because it would be easier to work with. I would be able to just use the A-1 setting and always underexpose by 1 stop. I couldn't figure out what was happening with the camera, and I wondered if I had a camera with a meter that wasn't functioning properly. So I contacted Mint, the ones who make the camera. I shared my problems and many examples of the overexposure problem that I was having. We had a lot of back and forth communication, trying to figure out what was going on. They explained how the light meter of the TL70 Plus operated. They said it, quote, uses a little spot metering located below the lens, which is center weighted. I really appreciated their responses, but it was also really frustrating. For example, I shared this image where the faces of the subjects are overexposed. They said that the image was actually properly exposed and it was taken under bright sunlight. Actually, it's clear that the image is overexposed and it wasn't taken under bright sunlight. It was captured on an overcast day with even lighting. I felt like they were gaslighting me. I pointed out the fact that it wasn't a sunny day and asked for an explanation of the overexposure, but they never addressed it. In this example, the first image is captured based on what the camera thinks is the correct exposure. And the second image is set to A-1 to underexpose by 1 stop. You can see that the camera overexposed the image and got it wrong. Mint's response, they said, capturing plants can be a challenge as well. Since the camera uses center weight metering, it requires sufficient overall light, resulting in an overexposed metering. In this example, I even moved the camera around, checking the exposure while pointing the camera at different parts of the scene. I deliberately chose a scene which gave me the same exposure no matter where I was pointing the camera. The result was overexposed. Mint's feedback, since a large part of the frame is occupied by dark areas, the metering tends to prioritize overall exposure. This can result in a slower shutter speed, causing overexposure in the white and bright areas. However, your second photo, being one stop darker, looks much better. You did a great job. Now I feel like I was being patronized and gaslit. After lots and lots of photos and different tests, I was no closer to finding a resolution. I asked again if it was possible that there was a problem with my specific camera's meter. Their response, overall your camera is working fine. Just spend more time with it to understand its characteristics better. I've spent months taking pictures with this camera and I feel like I understand the characteristics. The camera will sometimes overexpose images for unknown reasons. That is what is happening with this camera. Like I said at the beginning, frustrating. So when I go capturing images, I often set the aperture and then the shutter speed so that it underexposes the image, or I use that A-1 setting to underexpose the image by one stop. But that doesn't always work, so yeah, it's frustrating. The Instaflex TL70 Plus isn't a cheap camera, and for the cost, I honestly expect a better, more consistent meter. Yes, I could choose to use my handheld light meter and take that with me everywhere and get the correct exposure, but I don't think I should have to do that. You know, I have a love-hate relationship with this camera. I love the idea, I just hate the inconsistency and frustration of the camera. If you have this camera, are you also having any problems? Is this just my specific camera that is doing this? I would love to try another TL70 Plus and see if it is also having problems that I am having. I hope you like this video. If you like the content I am creating, please consider subscribing. Thanks so much.